The Bitcoin price here has absolutely collapsed to the downside, but guess what, guys? I actually don't think that we are going to go much lower. And if we do, we have a big problem. In this video, I'm going to tell you guys here what is going to happen next for Bitcoin and why this bull cycle is so completely different to what we've seen in the past. So let's dive here straight into it. Guys, we know, for example, right over here that the Pi cycle indicator, right over here, we have these bottom indicators right over here, these bottom signals and these top signals. It is whenever these two moving averages cross right over here with the red one, right over here with the orange one, that every single time in the past we have seen that Bitcoin sets in the exact top. But very, very weirdly, is we have not seen that so far here for this cycle. And so there's a lot of talk here about this potentially being the all-time high. But if I also, for example, go here to, for example, the indicator that I talked about here in the last indicator, the MFRFZ score indicator, that one also is not at all indicating that Bitcoin has so far topped out. The trend here is still that Bitcoin goes here towards this red line and then has a move to the downside. We have calculated this in many of our videos. That is going to be the target here of about $200,000. But what we also know, and that is what is so extremely weird and so confusing here about this chart, is that we know based on the time frames here, and this is based here on the rainbow wave indicator, is that whenever we have over here this red line right over here, this would be followed by the start of the bear market and a massive move to the downside. We can also exactly see that, for example, right over here as well. Now, in the last video, I want to say yesterday's videos, but it was actually a couple days ago here, I actually made a pretty funny intro where I made kind of a joke about the fact that Bitcoin is crashing and everything like that. And there was a comment from someone that actually said, Thomas, you shouldn't make fun of the Bitcoin price crashing to the downside. For us, people who might have bought at a higher level, that is not a fun thing. But guys, I want to remember you guys here that I also bought here back in 2017 at a very high level. And I also invested in crappy coins, in meme, well, not meme coins, that was a little bit later. But I did actually invest in ICOs and I lost my money. That is very normal here to happen. Everybody once in a while loses their money, but that's part here of the learning experience. But I always want to say over and over again, if you buy Bitcoin at these lower levels, for example, as I did in at $7,000 at $4,000, eventually over time you're always going to be in a profit and you're always going to make money, as we have seen, for example, in the past. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take my advice. I'm a random dude on the internet, but my theory is still very much that Bitcoin is going to go and keep going to the upside, that the government is going to keep inflating the currency. And as we've seen in the past, as long as you stay level-headed and you stay fine, you have some money to the side, if a crash happens, it always recovers, it always comes back stronger, and it always happens. So we shouldn't be too stressed and too worried, and making mistakes and buying at a high level is part of the process. But the main question again is massive confusion over here on my side, is that, well, we had this red line over here, which is generally when Bitcoin was seen all-time high. We haven't at all hit the $200,000 target. We've hit a very sloppy $100,000 target, and so far the Bitcoin price is trending to the downside. Now, we can create all sorts of weird theories, like we can say, for example, well, look here from the 2017 chart over here, where you can see here, this here over here on the left is the 2017 chart, and on the right the 2025 chart. You can see that in 2017 we also have a cycle where we had these big corrections here to the downside. I'd probably go here to the regular chart. It's probably a lot better, but you can actually see the same thing here, is where I just massive move to the upside, but followed by these big corrections. Now, we know that Bitcoin is probably not going to have a 2017 type cycle anymore. The market cap is too big, the volume is too big for that to happen. But we could potentially have something like a short-term pattern where what we can see over here is that we had these big corrections here, and then eventually we still had this break to the upside, like you can see over here. Maybe we're going to be doing something similar, but just on a larger time frame where we still have kind of like a pause, where, for example, we're just going to go sideways over a couple months and then still eventually here, maybe next summer, here break to the upside. But either way, guys, again, the weird thing is that we would exactly expect the all-time high to happen here around $124,000 right over here on about 8th of October. We exactly saw the all-time high on that exact level, as we know from the rainbow wave indicator. But what we also know here is that we didn't get a Pi cycle crossing, and we basically got no crossing at all. We got no indication that we should be topping out at this level. Now, you could have all sorts of different theories. Like you could say, for example, well, maybe it's because the interest rates are still relatively high. In the past, the interest rates were lower. Maybe it's because a lot of money is being taken to AI, and maybe a lot of money is being taken to, for example, meme coins and altcoins and speculation. Maybe someone is suppressing the prices. All sorts of different theories. But I do again want to repeat here what I said in the last videos, is that in terms of fundamentals, in terms of depth, for example, I saw again a lot of charts here today here saying that the deficit has increased more than it actually did during COVID so far here this year. And so I think that nothing is really stopping the train, and the debt is completely going to continue to pile up here. And we're just going to have to wait until something breaks in the system. We already saw a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago here, that the banks were being built out. About $40 billion got printed here, got provided here to liquidity to banks, which were struggling here with liquidity problems. So we know eventually that the monetary system is going to keep expanding, and we know Bitcoin is going to profit off that. But when we just talk about this cycle, there's still a lot of confusion on why it happened and what is potentially going to happen next. But I think, again, my strategy here, and as I've said in many of my videos, and that's also why I had this comment here from this guy, which was saying, Thomas, I bought it at this high level, you shouldn't make fun of that. I've always said I've had fiat to the side. I have repeated that over and over again. I will be buying that if we continue to lower, because I do not believe in the fiat system. So we really have that locked in. I've already have fiat to the side. I've told you guys also many times, I'm not buying Bitcoin anymore the moment that we broke above the all-time high. So if you've been following me, which I say, don't do that because I'm not a financial advisor, is that you would not have bought at this level. You've been just accumulating and stacking fiat here. And then what would happen is, if this is the bear market top here and we would move to the downside, well, we bought at 17K. I don't think we're going to go there. According to the rainbow wave indicator, we go as lower as $50,000 here. And that would basically be the level here for me to buy. So if we're going to break a little bit lower, we're going to go here, touch here about $50,000. And then we're going to be recovering from that here back to the upside. And then that's going to bring us back here to about $100,000 maybe. But that's going to be the moment to buy, and that's still going to be a double in valuation, which I'm potentially to look at. But if not, and we're going to continue to go higher, we're going to go here, still break a $200,000 again, then there's still the probability that we're eventually going to come back down here to about $60,000, and that could still be the golden level to accumulate before this cycle again continues. So either way of that, I'm looking to buy here around $60,000, $50,000, and so far nothing has changed. But if we are going to break here to the downside, and that is the important thing, if we are going to break to the downside, then that's going to break these big cycles where we saw this massive move to the upside. It's kind of going to break that. And it's going to put us in a level where we might not be able to see for the foreseeable future Bitcoin is going to hit those big returns like we've seen in the past. And then we really have to question is, what is going to happen to Bitcoin next? If this is really the cycle, and we really only just slightly broke here above the all-time high, what is going to be the next cycle? Are we going to just touch the all-time high and then have a bear market? Are we going to just outperform the previous cycle, something we've never done before either? That is going to be the big questions. But so far, I don't think that this is dangerous. I don't think that this is going to change everything. And as you guys can see here, we still have an extremely long time frame here for this bear market, if this is going to be a bear market here to play out. So let's just see what is going to be happening. I'm still betting we're going to break here up to 200K. I think we're just shaking off here the bears. I think the cycles have been too predictable in the past and we're doing something different. And I think eventually we're going to see the monetary floodgates being open. So regardless of that, I think Bitcoin is going to be fine. I think it's just doing something different. I think the cycles were too easy to predict. I think nobody wants to buy it above 100K, above the all-time high. I think a lot of people bought at some of the lower levels too early, too quick. And I think the market's just adjusting to that and finding a more easier way, a lower resistance level here that it can actually play out the chart. And I think the cycle is just going to be weird and different, but I think that the exact targets are still going to be the same here as we have seen in the past. That is what I would say so far is going to happen. But if I'm wrong and the price is going to dip down, then technically I wouldn't be wrong because I have prepared for that. I have fiat to the side and I can accumulate more. And as long as the monetary system continues to exist as it does today, I think we're always going to recover. And I think it's just going to be an easy trade. But yeah, that's basically it here, guys. We're just going to have to wait and see what's going to happen. We haven't hit a very extremely high target here this cycle. So a bear market would be very surprising. But what we're kind of fighting between, what the indicators are saying in terms of target or what the indicators are saying in terms of time. The time is saying this is the all-time high. In terms of target, it's saying it's not the all-time high. And I guess what we can do with that is either way, just continue to accumulate fiat and just hope that we're going to continue to move to the upside. And if not, we're going to deploy that fiat and we're going to start buying here on these bottom levels. And then from that on, we're going to have to see what's going to happen. But again, as long as the fiat system is alive, this thing is going to fly sooner or later. So with that, I want to end this video. I'll see you guys here in my next video. Bye-bye.